What is going on, you guys? Today we're going to be looking at some of the coolest, most unique PC cases if you're trying to do a one-off build that's really going to grab people's attention. You know, cases that make my Apivia Crusader look like a Dell from the 90s. And at the end of the day, looks are very subjective. Some of these cases might look hideous to some of you guys, while it might tickle the nether regions of others, but if you're building a mid to high-end PC, the case is what's going to be seen, so might as well make that thing flashy, right? Let's get it. Alrighty guys, first up on the list is the Aza Pyramid. Now I gotta say this thing is pretty sweet. This retails for around $300. Obviously with all of these niche, unique, one-off custom cases, not really one-off because they do sell more than one, but with these custom unique cases, they do fluctuate a lot in price because they make a limited supply of them, and then depending on what third-party vendor they're selling it through, Amazon, Newegg, etc., Best Buy even, they can kind of fluctuate the price away from the manufacturer's recommended MSRP just a skosh, but I gotta say, this one looks incredibly unique. It looks like an Egyptian pyramid. Now, it does look rather wide on the base, which means you will need a decent amount of desk space. They do also have RGB lighting underneath it, of course, because why not? And it does look like cooling would actually be pretty decent in this one. You can have a side mount fan as well as a top mount 120mm fan, and all of your components are spaced out pretty well, so it seems like natural airflow would be pretty good. Now, since we're talking about Aza, we might as well just talk about their cube. I am a big fan of this one. It comes with a stamped aluminum stand, and it basically cocks this thing at like a 45-degree angle, and sure enough, it's a cube. Technically, size-wise, this is between a mini or small form factor case as well as a mid-tower, so it's a little bit smaller than a typical mid-tower as far as just sheer cubic inches of space to pack components in there, but it's also bigger than a traditional small form factor like you might see out of a Dell manufacturing plant, so pretty sweet. Next, we have the Game KM Mid ATX Tower, and this is kind of a circular turbine design. It literally looks like a jet turbine. Pretty sweet. You can actually lift up the side glass panel if you need to get to any of your components. There is one large 20cm fan. They don't even go off millimeters. It's a 20 centimeter. It's just basically a huge propeller on the front. This does also have support for a 165mm CPU cooler as well as water cooling, which is pretty sweet. I think stuffing water cooling in there would probably be a little bit tight just because of having to have the pump and the reservoir and all that stuff. But overall, it does look phenomenal, and it is, well, sure enough, unique. That's why it's on the list. Now, this is the FSPE ATX, and I gotta say, this thing is pretty sweet. However, it is kind of an open-air design, so you are going to be getting a lot of dust and pet hair and whatnot sucked in there. However, it does have a couple of glass panels on the side to shield a little bit of that open airflow from the sides, and obviously cooling is not going to be an issue at all with that open-air design, so maybe if you're trying to do something like just a 2, 3, or 4 GPU mining rig, this might be a good option for you if you just want a little pizzazz or flair. Technically, if you were going to do that, you'd probably just put it in a open rack, but gotta say, overall, this thing is pretty darn sweet. Of course, it's loaded to the gills with RGB. This bad boy here is an eBay special at $140, and this is the Dark Flash Knight. Sure enough, the front looks like a Knight's helmet or face mask, and I gotta say, this one's pretty sweet. So you have mounts for 3 intake fans on the front, 1 exhaust fan on the back, and because of the shape, it's kind of going to funnel some of that hot air out. It's not fully open air because you do have those slats in there, so this strikes a good balance between, obviously, dust protection and then also open airflow. This has mounts for 1 hard drive and 2 SSDs, or 2 hard drives or 2 SSDs. That was super confusing, but either way, you can pack a good amount of hard drives in here. You have your control ports on the front left, and you do have a tempered glass panel that pops off on the left, and this is available in other colors. However, this black and orange is what you're most commonly going to find, so you might end up having to disassemble and paint this bad boy yourself if you want a one-off custom. This is the Cougar Conquer 2 ATX Full Tower, so this is a big boy. And I gotta say, this thing looks pretty doggone sick. I didn't really know what to think about it the first time I looked at it, but I actually like it. It's growing on me quite a bit. I like this aggressive profile from the side. You have these kind of panels that look like some kind of Zoid or Gundam wing. And overall, it's actually pretty practical, too. You have these glass panels on the side here, and you have a ton of different mounting options for cooling, as well as different GPU placement. And I gotta say, this thing is pretty sweet. Price tag is $350 though, so start saving now. Now this one might not be as wild as some of the other ones on the list, but this is the Thermaltake Core P3TG. This does come in other colors. This is the red version here. And this one is a pretty classy, I guess you could say, clean look here. Obviously, you're gonna have to do some major cable management to keep the inside of this thing looking clean, as the basement is not like a traditional basement that's closed off. It's just kind of like a little back panel there. So you're going to want to do a lot of wire tucking, cable tying, velcroing, etc. But overall, if you just want to have all your components up front there, that is a good option. I do think for my preference, this is a little too open air design for me. So it would let in a lot of pet hair and dust and skin residue and whatnot. But overall, if you're just trying to build a showstopper, this is $160. You can't really beat that for such a unique looking case. Now, this is the Dark Flash ATX. It is an open frame, obviously, and it has this kind of panel or plate that you mount all your hardware to, all your components, that has RGB built into it. You also have a lot of pass-throughs for cable management, so you're actually going to be able to hide a lot of those icky wires, as the kids say. And this thing is super unique. It kind of stands at a 45-degree angle. And this does, of course, have support for water cooling and a slew of motherboards. And we have yet another AZA over here. These guys make some really unique cases. So this one is the Onyx 260X. I like this kind of panel on the front. Almost looks like a stained glass window that you'd see inside of an old church or something like that. And it has this kind of diamond pattern on it. But it's also a very practical mid-tower case. You have a full sealed up glass panel on the side, so you're not going to be getting a bunch of dust and whatnot in there. However, these closed front designs that are completely sealed off, they don't really allow the best airflow for intake fans. I can't remember if we covered this one. Thermaltake does make a lot of cases that look kind of similar. This is the AHT 600. This is in snow color, which is obviously white. Myself going for that Stormtrooper theme, this would actually fit the build quite well. It is obviously black and white. And these panels here, if you unscrew this back screw right here, actually swivel out like that, so you can get access to your components inside there if you need to clean, or you need to, wiggle some wires or add a new component, switch something out. You have full access in there without actually having to fully take off your side panel. Or if you just want to, show stop, you can just open up the sides there. This thing looks pretty sick. I gotta say, Thermaltake has been making some pretty unique cases. It seems like AZA is kind of stepping up as the new unique case maker for readily accessible cases. You can obviously always go with a company that's going to do a one-off custom for you, build it from the ground up. But as far as just off-the-shelf custom cases, Thermaltake and AZA seem to be leading the pack right now. This bad boy here is the Antec Striker PGE, retailing for $250. It is a semi-open air design, and I will say, I do think that cable management would be kind of a... Why can't I zoom in on this bad boy? Would be kind of a beast, as there isn't really a dedicated basement because there is tempered glass on both sides. As you can see, there's even just with the cases cables running around there, it looks like a hot sticky mess. But of course, nothing that some tiebacks and some tiebacks and zip ties will not fix. You have two audio ports, a Type-C and two 3.0s on the front. And then you do have a large pass-through section in the middle, so you can decide where you want to mount your motherboard, what orientation. And then you have these nice little side panels on there as well. Now, I keep coming across this case here, and it says Cooler Master right on the front there, but I don't know if that's just this component or if it's the entire case. I cannot find an actual model number for this bad boy, but I will have all of these linked in the description below. But this is $140, and to me, this looks like a little espresso machine. That's exactly, from a distance, you think you're walking up on a coffee machine, which I guess could be a good thing, but this is very interesting. This is kind of this is a small form factor, obviously. There's not a whole lot of working room here. But obviously the cable management that this gentleman or lady did here are pretty good. Nice fat heatsink on the top there. Pretty sweet. Now these are custom painted by an individual seller on OfferUp, which is a site like Etsy, where you're able to buy, unique crafted items and whatnot. And I gotta say, whoever is doing this airbrushing or however they're getting on there, this isn't hydro dip, but it looks like it is indeed hand painted. They have this really kick-ass post-apocalyptic steampunk look to them. I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of these, especially because this is just a basic, Dell or HP compact case here, but it looks really, really badass. And also, since these are hand-painted, you're probably going to get one that's different than every other version out there, so this is a good option here too. Speaking of customs over here, this thing is absolutely ridiculous. This entire thing is clear. So obviously you want to make sure your cable management is on point because all those wires are going to be seen. But I got to say, this thing is insanely unique and very, very eye-catching, very attention-grabbing, which I guess, well, is the point of this entire video. If I did forget your favorite case, I apologize. There are some really, really sweet ones out there. Drop in the comment section below your favorite from this list or one that was not on this list, and I'll be sure to get that on the next iteration or next part of this video, as there are hundreds of awesome cases out there. Too many to cover in one video. Hopefully you guys saw a case that really tickled your fancy. Might even be in your next build. All these are linked in the description below if you want to check them out in more detail, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.